Hi, it's Josh here again, and I'm finishing up my second spoonflower block. And there have been a few issues which we'll diagnose at the end of this video here. But right now I'm just going to finish up these last 3 lines I have in the grid section of the block. What's interesting here about this particular section of the block with the grid, and we'll get into this later when we diagnose the issues, but this one specific machine does not like going in a certain direction. It prefers to go down toward the quilter, and that's something I had to learn the hard way, as we'll find out later. So right now I'm just going to finish up this grid section here, which far and away was the most time-consuming of this entire block, this portion right here.
It was pretty time-consuming. Can you explain why you use this button?
Yes, well, I'm using, there's a button on the machine here. I guess you can see it.
It's called a needle up, needle down. What it does when you hit it, it lifts the needle. And
it's a shortcut to
lifting the needle.
Lifting the needle, yeah.
And you used it just simply to reposition your needle and
to make sure I'm on line.
Yeah. How have you felt about stitching those straight lines, Josh?
I prefer curved lines, especially when you deal with a lot of straight lines. It gets pretty monotonous. But the other part of this block, the diagonal lines, was nowhere near as monotonous and kind of boring as this section.
There are a lot of lines all put together in this one section, so I'm sure you'll be happy to be finishing it up. It's almost done here.
And that is it right there.
So right here, lift up your needle, and now you want to lift your presser foot. Give yourself some distance, just pull the block away. And now you can drop your presser foot down. This is for people who have a thread cutter. Drop your foot again, and then hit the thread cutting button. What you want to do though is give
it for you.
Yeah, you want to give it a little bit of distance, so that way you can pull up the threads on your block. And so I'm going to show you real quick in this video how to hide these threads. And of course, there are a million ways of doing this, and a lot of quilters prefer to kind of build up thread at the beginning and end of thread breaks. You know, kind of they start quilting and stitch a few times in one place, and then at the end they stitch a few times in one place. I really don't like that because it creates a very noticeable knot on the quilt. And just to kind of showcase what one of these looks like, one of the issues that I've been seeing a lot with Josh is kind of these little build-ups of thread. They're almost like little...
Bird's nest, correct?
Well, no, that's not a bird's nest, technically. That's more of just a little knot. These little spaces here, it's basically where you've kind of forgotten your needle's going up and down, and it might only be 2 or 3 times, but it's enough to create a noticeable knot on the back of the quilt. So that is why I don't like that build-up option. I instead just stitch to wherever you want to stop. Don't build up thread. Instead, tie a knot in that thread. This is just a simple overhand knot. Just like that. And I don't take it all the way down to the surface of the quilt. I leave about 1/8 of an inch so that I don't have the knot right down on the surface of the quilt. Otherwise it will be very hard to put it inside the middle layer. So I'm going to grab a cheater needle. So this is a cheater needle, and basically it has a little groove on the end that allows me to pop the threads in really easily and hide them in the middle layer of the quilt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this needle and run it into the quilt. And I'm just running it through the middle layer. I want to flip it over and make sure it's not going through and showing up on that back side.
One question, Leah. Does it go through the batting? Or does it just go through the top fabric? It's
in the middle layer, so it's in the batting.
Okay.
It might go kind of below the batting and back up above it. It's in that middle layer. You want it kind of sandwiched between the fabric on the top and the fabric on the back and not coming out the back side. Okay. So once it's through, you're just going to pop those 2 threads into the eye of that needle. And I like to give it just a little tug out, just so it has a little extra space. Otherwise I find it kind of pulls on the thread too much. Grab a hold of that needle and just send it through. Give it a little tug, and that knot has popped into the middle layer of the quilt. You can't see it. Okay, and then you just clip off your thread tails. Okay, so that is how you deal with the beginning and end of any thread break. And we ended up with quite a few thread breaks on this particular block. And Josh and I are going to kind of talk through this and explain what happened here. You got started quilting, and basically what happened was you were kind of working in a direction that the machine didn't like. And so we started seeing certain things. And I'm going to zoom in again, so hopefully you can see it.
Leah, let me jump in here real quick. What's interesting about that, you can feel it in the machine. You don't necessarily see it, but you can feel it almost instantly, and that's when you know you need to stop and look at things.
Exactly, exactly. So Josh really liked working in this direction. That's working from right to left. And you notice in this line, the stitches started skipping. And that means that the bottom thread wasn't connecting with the top thread. That was the first kind of clue that the machine didn't like what was happening. And it was able to handle it okay for this first design, the wiggly U-shapes, because you're kind of changing direction a little bit as you make this pattern. However, for straight lines, this is a different animal. You're really just working in that one straight line. If your machine doesn't like that direction, it's going to let you know when it's doing something like this. So the skipping stitches started, and then we ended up with a bird's nest, and you can kind of see it on the back of the quilt here, where the machine just totally gagged up. So if this happens to you, and you get kind of a shredding around your needle, that might be the cause of it. It's a direction your machine doesn't like. So you'll need to rotate your block around, like Josh was doing at the very end, always stitching towards himself, and that really helped. We then had another thread break that happened just really right on top of the first, and that was because something in the top of the machine had become unthreaded. There's a lot of different guides and channels and stuff that your thread needs to run through whenever you're quilting. Just the simple threading of the top of your machine. And once you have one thread break, and you have a second one right on top of it, chances are something's come unthreaded. Something's just not right. So it's really worth your time to just go ahead and cut your threads on the top, cut your thread, pull out your bobbin even, and rethread your machine completely, and then start again. And I know it's one of those things that can be really obnoxious. I just rethreaded my machine, it can't possibly be wrong. Well, if you're in a hurry, if you're rushing through it, it's easy to miss one of those guides, and that's going to cause thread breaks. It's just going to happen.
And it'll be easier to do it then than fixing something bad later.
Breaks. Exactly. Now, the one other thing I think we mentioned before was just that building up of thread on the back of the quilt from stitching in place multiple times in one place. And this is just one of those things. You kind of have to pay attention, be really vigilant as you're free motion quilting. If your hands stop, your machine needs to stop, meaning get your foot off that foot pedal and don't continue to press if your hands aren't moving. Does that make sense?
It does. And another thing, if you do have two machines and you're just learning, stick to that one machine. Don't jump machines.
I kind of messed up Josh's quilting learning experience because I made him learn on the Janome 1000, which was, it was set up specifically for him for quilting, and it worked out really well, except now I'm putting him on the Janome 8900, and it's a totally different machine, totally different features, and it is quite a jump.
It's like a car. You get used to driving a car, and then suddenly you're in a new car.
It's not impossible. If you are planning on buying a new machine, just simply understand that there's always that period of adjustment. There's always a period of change where you have to kind of readjust and learn how to use everything again and get your speed control down again. And we're still kind of going through that a little bit, right?
We are, and it's a learning experience, but it's been fun, and I think I prefer this new machine just because it's got a lot of nice things like that button you can press instead of pulling the needle back manually.
The needle up and needle down. Yeah, that's one of the features I can't live without. Okay, so that's it for this video. This is block number 2 for the building blocks quilt pattern. If you'd like to quilt along with us and make all of these blocks and learn how all of these tips and tricks about free motion quilting, definitely pick up your copy of the building blocks quilt pattern at leahday.com and join us on the Free Motion Quilting Project every Monday as we share new videos every week. So until next time, let's go quilt.